I'd like to welcome you to Board of Commissioners, Town of Redstone Shores regular meeting. It's Wednesday, 2016 at 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the special meeting March the 16th of 2016, the workshop meeting of March 23rd, 2016, the regular meeting of March the 23rd, 2016.
Second.
Motion and a second, in discussion. Hearing none, Tracy, call the roll.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tapper?
Yes.
Commissioner Branch?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes.
Attorney Rubenstein?
I don't vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not all
I was
of
on a roll.
Go ahead.
Next, we show ratification of bills, but we're going to postpone that to the next meeting due to Mary's mother's death on Sunday. Mary hadn't been here most of the week or all week, so our prayers go out to her and her family. I hope everybody will keep her in mind. Commission reports. I will start with number one. I'm sure everybody heard in the paper about the 3 girls that were killed in a stolen vehicle, ran from police. I'm asking, lock your doors, because there's a gang, more than one gang of kids running around checking car doors, and then if they get in them and they can start them, they're gone. But even if they get in them, they take everything they can get a hold of. So please lock your cars, keep your eyes out. It's pretty good rash of. Used to we didn't get them too much here at the beaches, but right now they're pretty heavy on the beach. The second thing, I would like to personally, I guess it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was a resident that noticed that the parking lot across from Wahoo's in our business section had not been mowed and had been missed, I guess, by our contract people. So instead of complaining about it, this person got his lawnmower, and with Joseph, who works for the town, Joseph Walker, got out and went over and mowed it themselves, I think on Sunday. So Jeff Neal is that person. So I'd like to thank them personally. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
I'm just glad we didn't get arrested for working on Sunday.
I called them, but they didn't come.
The other thing, everybody's familiar by now with red tide. We've got it pretty heavy right now. We're doing the best we can with our machine, picking up the fish and burying them on the beach. We're trying to be a good neighbor. I got a call today from Mayor Queen in North Red, and I asked him if he could borrow our guy and the machine to clean up his beach. So we're going to do that tomorrow to help North Reddington out in that case. With that, I'm going ahead and give Vice Mayor Holmes' report on fire and rescue. Fire department services, there were no emergency there were no non-emergency fire responses for this time period. There were 3 emergency fire responses for this period with an average response time of 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Emergency medical services, there were 16 non-emergency EMS responses for this period with an average response time of 5 minutes and 37 seconds. There were 23 emergency EMS responses for this time period with an average response time of 5 minutes and 45 seconds. In emergency minutes, we are in the process of reviewing emergency management contracts with other agencies and companies in support of our community in event of a disaster and ahead of the coming hurricane and flooding season. Earlier this month, Mary and Tracy attended training at Pinellas County Emergency Management Center. This training consisted of communicating with the county via web EOC during the event. It was a mock event. With that, I'm done, and we go to Commissioner Capper.
Okay, month of March in the building department was a little slow. We only did 52 permits. They were mostly small ones, no new homes. Total fees were $7,064.53. A little thing on that grass, the contractor was a little confused if he was supposed to cut it or not, and that's what happened on it, but he will take care of it from now on, so you don't have to work on Sunday. Okay. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Capper. Commissioner Branch?
Yes, in the police report, criminal reports were down in both towns, while the police action reports was up in both towns. Call for service was up dramatically in both towns. Traffic citations was up in both towns with the reverse trend for parking tickets. Both towns showed an increase in traffic warnings. Of the 11 accidents, 5 in Indian Shores and 6 in Redington Shores. There was 1 reported injury in Indian Shores and 2 reported injuries in Redington Shores. Physical arrests were down. They were 85%, down 85% in Indian Shores and up 16% in Redington Shores. So the bad people are still out there, and they're getting worse, but you can see we got a lot here to kind of take care of all that tonight. So if anybody wants to get feisty, go ahead. This is the place to do it right now. Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Branch. Commissioner Henderson?
I just wanted to let everyone know that the basketball court resurfacing is already underway at Constitution Park, and by this time next week, we should be able to shoot some hoops. And at the same time that they're going to be doing the basketball court, they are going to be painting pickleball lines. I've had lots and lots of emails about pickleball lines, so they will be putting them on the tennis court, and they're going to be not too dramatic, so that'll upset the tennis players, but I'm going to make everybody happy, I hope. Anyway, that's my plan. April 22nd is the deadline for the website RFPs to be in, so we will soon be updating our website, and I'm very excited about that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. Cookie Kennedy. I don't see her tonight. Representative Peters just walked in. If you don't mind if I move you to the...
That's fine.
end, since we're going to meet afterwards, would that be fine with you? For people that don't know our representative, Kathleen Peters, she's sitting right over here.
Would you stand up and let everybody see you?
Oh, I thought they'd seen you when I came out. That's good, all to see you.
That's them cards you get in the mail with a picture on it and asking you to vote, so let's do it when you get one.
Next to old business, as you know, the police contract is up, and this is tonight. We had presentations a month or so ago, and now we're here to vote tonight on our police contract, and wonder if anybody has any motion to make?
I have a motion to make. I'd like to see us award the contract to Indian Shores as it was published.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? It's public discussion too, if you want to come up. If you would step up, state your name and address. You got about 2 minutes.
My name is Brian Jurgens. I live at 800 182nd Ave East here in Reddington Shores, and all I have to say is I've had nothing but good experiences with our local police, and I really would like you guys to continue the status quo. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Osborne. I live at 201 180th Avenue. It's my opinion that my identity and everyone's here's identity is predicated upon a multiplicity of variables. But one of the pieces of my identity that I enjoy most is right there. Coming over that bridge and seeing those officers on duty is so cool to me. They have done a lot for my family when I was building my house. There's it, right there. That gentleman offered his services every night to check my lot. Had some kids in there who were hanging out, doing their kid thing. But as a homeowner, you get concerned about liability. He offered his services, and every night he would just walk my property and make sure everything was okay. Thank you. I know they cost money, whatever they cost. I have the financial wherewithal to live wherever I want in this country, and this is where I choose, and I'm willing to pay a little extra to keep them. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you. My name is Jason Scrimshaw. I live at 17727 Long Point Drive. It may not look like it, but I come from 17 years of public safety as a firefighter and paramedic in the city of Atlanta, in Cobb County, and Conyers, Georgia. I've seen small departments displaced, and every time it's ever happened, everybody wants them back. Typically, it's too late for that to happen. I understand what would happen in the plan in place for the county. But these guys are on the streets. They're here every day. I see them at night. I've seen them in my backyard bringing my dog back. I feel safe. Now I'm going to lock my doors. I hate to hear that, but I know it is what it is. But I've seen this happen. The response times go down, and when you don't have the officers, not only for your community safety, but for their own safety, the transition would be irresponsible at best for a county to come in and leave a single deputy at the mercy of whoever may be in someone's house or in someone's car with a backup situation, possibly in Pinellas Park. And it happens all the time. I understand that if they're gone, that they don't come back. I want you guys to consider, from my experience in public safety, as someone that's seen it happen and seen the disaster it becomes, to please consider definitely keeping these guys. They do a wonderful job, and I've got a lot of neighbors that would like to be here tonight. Other things happen, and baseball and things are going on. But I bring a lot of support from Long Point Drive, just to let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeff Dillinger. I'm at 18103 First Street East, and I can tell you, I've never really had many positive things to say about police, not that I'm really against them, but these guys have been great. When I lived in Miami Beach and I got like 3 bikes stolen, they'd show up and give me a card and say, yeah, you probably won't get it. I got a bike stolen here. It was because I left my door open, and it was, it's like I was kind of dumb. It's like, because we understand that, you can't really stop, thieves from coming in. But the officer that I dealt with showed up, took all the information down. He was trying to get, like serial. I was like, what's this guy doing? It's like, I never seen anything like that. It's like when I lived in New York or any other places, they just show up and, okay, you want this for your insurance? Never followed up. He actually gave me a call. He wanted to get my email, gave me a call back. I never seen anything like that, so that's why I'm here. I think they've done a great job, and I hope to continue that you all continue with them for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I think everybody here, we're getting the gist of it. Does anybody want to speak on the other side? All right, with that, we've heard enough, I think. So Tracy, would you call the roll for vote?
Commissioner Henderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Capper,
Yes.
Commissioner Branch,
Yes,
Mayor Adams.
Yes. On that motion, it was made for me to be able to sign the contract. Is that-
right, okay. Give the mayor permission to sign the contract as well, I'll add that.
On that motion. Okay.
Second. Oh, I'll second that.
Do we need to call, vote on signing the contract now? We do? All right. Call the roll on the vote, on me signing the contract.
Commissioner Henderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Capper,
Yes.
Commissioner Branch,
Yes,
Mayor Adams.
Yes. And the next is appointment and reappointment Parks and Recreation Committee. Who is that?
That's me.
All
And I
right.
would like to reappoint Dee Pertano to the Parks and Rec Committee for her next term of 2 years.
Fine with me. Is there a second out there?
Second.
Okay. Motion is second, in discussion. Tracy, call the roll.
Commissioner Henderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Capper,
Yes.
Commissioner Branch,
yes,
Mayor Adams.
Yes. Any new business? All right, none. Representative Peters.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate you letting me come and speak to you about this legislative session, but if you'd indulge me just for a second, I'd appreciate it. Okay, first, I want to thank the law enforcement officers that are here. I was a mayor of a small city, and I understand the role you play, and thank you for your service, above and beyond that. What I want to say to the residents here, and I love hearing your testimony, and typically, people only come to city council meetings, and I don't know about your city, because I was never a city commissioner here, but I was in South Pasadena, and the only time people came to speak is if it was a squeaky wheel, somebody who just wanted to complain. And it's so wonderful to hear people come here and talk positively about the public servants that they have serving their committee. So thank you for taking the time and coming to support them, because often it's only the people that want to complain. So I want to thank you all for coming out here and being a part of the process. That's wonderful, and all too often people don't do that, so thank you. Now, to you all, and I'm sorry, but I love home rule, and I tell you the truth, mayor was my favorite role. So, anyways, what I'm here to talk to you about is the legislative session and how we ended off. And we ended off a lot better this year than we did last year. Last year was a little embarrassing, the House members going home and so forth early. So this year was much more productive. We had a really good budget, and what I can tell you is 41% of our budget goes to health care. And I didn't bring my notes up with me with that numbers. But the next biggest thing in our budget is education, and it's about 30%, and then economic development and transportation is about 15%, and then the rest is the courts and the prison systems and things like that, agriculture, and the administrative costs, and I know you all watch your administrative costs, and you are a very, very efficient city, so your administrative costs are very low. In the state of Florida, our administrative costs are 2.8% of the total budget, so that $82 billion budget, our administrative costs are about 2.8%, which is significantly lower than they were, 8-10 years ago. So beyond the budget, what else is real important? And what I can tell you is we're up to date on Bee Tree Nourishment, because I know that's important to your community. I made a promise to Senator Jones when he left the legislature that I would do everything in my power to ensure that our beaches are taken care of. And so at this point, and I know you get the updates at the Big C, we are on schedule with Bee Tree Nourishment. We have not wavered on that. Clean water, clean springs are a very high priority, and that's not going to waver. I don't see that wavering in the near future. It is a big fight for the Bee Tree Nourishment, and just know that I'll always be diligent, and it pays because your Big C is always so diligent that we have to keep that voice loud as we need more and more money for other springs and other water issues. And so we need to stay very vocal and strong on our Bee Tree Nourishment, because I know how important that is. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is there's a lot of things that took place, and most of them you hear in the news. So what I wanted to talk to you about is what I worked on this year, and it really doesn't get a lot of play and a lot of conversation. But what I can tell you is it's at the core of everything that we do in state government as far as problematic and being the vacuum that is sucking the resources out of every department. And that's mental health and substance abuse. And our sheriff and our public defender, Bob Dillinger and Bob Gualtieri, came to me and demanded 2 years ago that I do something to fix the incredibly broken system that we have. And so I've spent the last 2 years touring prisons, mental hospitals, forensic facilities, interviewing judges and professionals in the field. And what I found is that our healthcare costs are skyrocketing because, well, let me start at the very beginning. We have this country, the data says that 1 in 5 adults in this country suffer from some kind of mental illness, including severe depression. So that's 1 in 5, 20% of our population, that's 43 million people. Of those 43 million people, 60% do not seek treatment, and I believe it's because of the stigma associated, because nobody will talk about it. This is a subject nobody wants to talk about. Of those 43 million people, 41% are dual diagnosed, addicted to drugs because they're self-medicating, because they don't seek treatment. So this problem has just become at the core of all of our issues. So healthcare costs exponentially. If you are a person who's a diabetic who has a mental illness, when you go into the ER, the cost for your diabetic treatment is so acute that it's exponentially higher than anyone else with diabetes. So that is one of the biggest things that are making our healthcare costs exponentially higher than they should be. Our courts are absolutely filled because too often we've been criminalizing people for a mental illness. They will commit a crime because of their illness, or they're loitering in the park, or they're homeless, or there's something else. And so they end up getting arrested, they get put in our county jail, they get put in our state prison system, they are choking off our court system, and the number one reason children are taken away from families is because of substance abuse. And we know the correlation of mental illness and substance abuse, and if the number one reason is that we're taking children away from families, is that substance abuse. So it truly is at the core of every single sector that is within our budgetary system. And so why do I bring this to you? Because many small cities think, oh, this isn't something that we see, this isn't a problem with our city. But what I'm here to tell you is, if it's 1 in 5 adults, it's a problem that your citizens are suffering through in silence, and so are their family members. And the cost in our budgets, and I'm going to give you an example. Miami-Dade did the best study just to see, because their jail, their county jail is so full, and we are funding our county jail. So in Miami-Dade, they did an in-depth study because their jail was so full and they couldn't get people out of it. And they had 4 people in a cell that was designed for 1. And so they looked into it, yet USF did the study for them, and they thought it would be thousands of individuals that was just choking up the system. It turned out to be 95 individuals. And so they took a look at the 5-year history of those 95 individuals. And it turned out that those 95 individuals were arrested more than 2,200 times at a cost of $12.8 million to the county of Miami-Dade. So Sheriff Gualtieri did a minor study similar to that, but not as in-depth. He found 33 individuals who are the high utilizers, who are in the revolving door in our jail system and our court system, and they projected the cost to be $2 million for those 33 individuals. So it is costing every single one of our citizens an enormous amount of money because we are using our jail and our criminal justice system to be our mental health hospital, which is not okay, because they don't get an assessment and they don't get treatment, and then they stay within that system in that revolving door, and it just keeps costing us and costing us. So what I'm proud to tell you is, not only did I pass 3 bills that completely reform the entire system, the workforce system, that system, and those that have been declared incompetent to stand trial, but there were 6 more bills that were filed that address homelessness and other things associated with substance abuse and mental health. And we have not had this kind of sweeping reform since the Baker Act was instituted in 1970. This is significant. And so I am very, very proud of what we've done, and I really want to start talking about it, and you'll hear me talk about it every time I can, because the fact that nobody will seek treatment, particularly because of the stigma, unless we start talking about it, this is never going to get fixed. And I can do all the system change and all the laws change and everything else, and we might have some change, but until we get rid of that stigma and get people into treatment, we're not going to change it. So what does that mean to you? And what I would suggest is someone from the Big C possibly get on this committee. The bill that I expect the governor to sign on Friday is SB 12, and that changes the entire infrastructure of our mental health system. And that has to be driven by the community level, because the only way we're going to get an effective system is if it's locally driven. So each managing entity must work with the county, must work with law enforcement, and that would include your law enforcement here. And they need to be a part of that conversation on how to make the system work more effectively and more efficiently so that we have access through any door. So if an officer takes them to a Baker Act, or if somebody walks into an ER, or if a school determines that a child should get help, that there will be access through any door, and that there will be a continuum of care, quality care, access to care, because currently all we do is acute care, and we don't, once we let them out of a Baker Act, we have nothing for them. Addiction is a Marchman Act. That's still, I made a lot of changes on the Marchman Act, but currently in Pinellas County, and a Marchman Act is an involuntary commitment for someone with an addiction. So a Baker Act is involuntary for someone with mental health that's a danger to themselves or others. A Marchman Act would be the same for someone with addiction that's a danger to themselves or other, for an overdose or hurting someone. The Marchman Act has never been funded. The state only funds a couple counties. We don't collect data on it, so I can't even tell you how many counties do it. It's that bad. In Pinellas County, if somebody has a family member that's got a severe addiction, if we want to go to the court and get a Marchman Act done, the best we can do, because we do not have an involuntary facility in this county, is send them to jail. They will dry out in jail, and they'll release them off into the streets after they dry out. That's all we have for our Marchman facility. Where in Hillsborough County, where the county funds it, or in Volusia County, where the state funds it, if they do an involuntary for an addiction, they go into that facility, they get a medical assessment, they get an addiction assessment, they get treatment, and they get a referral to a program to help them get off of their addiction, and to, if there's co-occurring with mental illness, to get the mental health treatment that they need. And so there's a big difference between what happens in Hillsborough County and what happens in Pinellas County. So that's something that I hope the county is going to look at and maybe replicate what they're doing in Hillsborough, particularly with the amount of money that they'll get as a return on investment from the new system that we'll put in for mental health, where we'll stop criminalizing and putting people in jail and in prison, and instead Baker Act and get them treatment and help. And I hope that the officers here, I'm going to ask, have you been trained in CIT, any of you? You're nodding, great, and I know there's another graduation coming up. Pinellas County is way ahead of the ballgame on that, and that is critically important, so that just like one of the residents in my district as well, in St. Pete Beach, this woman had a psychotic episode, and a neighbor called the police, and when the police came, it was the sheriff's deputies down there. The woman charged the officer with a butcher knife, and one officer was trained in CIT, one was not, and the officer that was trained was able to ensure that she didn't get shot, and she would have been justified had she been shot. But because of the training that these officers in Pinellas County have had, instead they ran away, they circled back, they came back, they took her down safely, they got the knife away from her, and they never charged her with a crime. Instead, they Baker Acted her. She got the help she needed, so now she doesn't have a criminal record. She can still go on with her life. She can still have a job. She can still move forward, and that is the appropriate way to respond. And you have a team here that knows how to respond to your residents when they're in crisis and need, and that's critically important. So I know I get on a soapbox on this, but it's because of our public defender and our sheriff that they put me on this. I had no idea what a big issue this was, and I'm here to tell you it's huge. But what we've done is really big, and it will make a difference to each one of your residents that suffers in silence, and I promise you there's plenty that are. There's lots of other things that I can talk about. Many of them were in the news, so I don't want to reiterate that. I was very successful at bringing home local projects, but your city has never come to me and asked me for any of those, so I will tell you that if in the future you have a stormwater project or something that you think could be a burden to your budget and you would like some help from the state, you pay a lot of money into the state, and it would be my pleasure to try and bring that back home for you for one of those projects to save your residents from having to pay for that because they're already paying the state. We brought home some money from Madeira Beach for a lighting project and the T-Groin project on St. Pete Beach and a sewer and road project on Blind Pass Road on St. Pete Beach, and the Tierra Verde Bridge will get replaced sooner. Hopefully, that's my commitment and the promise that they've made to me. So we've had a lot of things come home, and so you all have been really wonderful, and you have great pride, and you've never asked, but know that your residents are sending money to Tallahassee, and if I can bring it back home for them to help you, that would be my pleasure. But I'd like to open up for any questions that you, or since you have some wonderful participation from your residents, that would be up to you, Mayor, if you'd like to entertain that, but I'd happy to answer any questions you have.
Anybody have any questions? The only thing I can tell you, Representative Peter, is that we have been fighting a constant battle with DOT lately. Once they did a paving out here
Okay.
on Gulf Boulevard, now we're flooding Gulf Boulevard. They showed up, I guess, after 3 months, 4 months of...
A lot longer than that.
Wow. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. But anyway, they finally showed up and now starting to do something about it, but I just thought it was a very slow response from DOT. And I know that the town clerk, Mary, had been calling them about every day. So if anything happens there and it's not straight, I will be calling you.
And sir, what I would say is I wish you had called me the first week.
We probably should have.
And if ever we have a department that is not responsive, and I would say that to the residents too, because often they never think to call their legislator. And so a business that's trying to get their operating license, or a residence that's having even trouble getting any kind of assistance that they're entitled to, they often don't think to call us, and that's really what we're there for, is citizen service and constituent service. So by all means, if ever you have another situation like that, please do not wait 3 months.
It's not over yet.
Don't even wait 3 weeks. And if they are not responsive, call me. I can't promise I can light a fire, but I promise I will do everything I can to light a fire under them and get them to work. And so far, every single department I've had to call on has been incredibly helpful to me.
Good.
On many levels.
Good to
So
hear.
I work closely with them, and I try not to get them angry at me so that they will work with me. So,
Okay.
so I'm happy to do that. Is
All
there
right.
any other?
Any other questions? Anybody have a question for Representative Peters while he's here? Everybody's happy.
Wonderful. I'd love to hear that. Well, thank you, sir, and thank you again for your service, and congratulations on the renewal of the contract. And if there's anything I can do for you or anyone in the audience, please, please, please call me.
Well,
Thank you.
You know, it's not Reddington Shores, but if you could get Trader Joe's to build a market right here, that would be
I'm right with you.
beyond great.
I am right with you. I'm right with you. I'm not sure if their business model is going to cover that, but we certainly could.
It's a perfect size.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, no public comments, I'll go through that again, any public comment? If none, the next workshop meeting is Wednesday, April 27th, 2016 at 7 p.m., regular meeting Wednesday, May 11th, 2016 at 7 p.m. With that, the meeting is adjourned.